So here's a simple place to start. I'm on page 9, and I'm kind of in the middle of the bullet points, and I want you to look carefully at the bullet point that begins with the educated man who downplayed the warnings and the floodwaters swept away the cello that had been in his family for well over a century. The warnings were there, the storm was coming, he bought bottled water, and he thought that would be enough. As years go by without incident, people in former disaster zones stop buying insurance just when they are likely to need it the most. In 1967, we got word that a hurricane was bearing down on the Rio Grande Valley. I grew up in Harlingen, down near Brownsville. And Hurricane Beulah, the third strongest hurricane of the 20th century in the Atlantic, Category 5 before it hit land, it came to our little farmhouse in Combs, right outside of Harlingen. Herman Mayu got the boys together. I was in high school, and he said, we're going to tie down the house. And we did. We had a 2-story old farmhouse, and it had one of these old porches, porticos, you know, the one on pillars. And we did what he called sinking a dead man around it. We put a steel cable above the porch and sunk it into the ground on each side and tethered it down. There is zero doubt the house would have been destroyed. Herman Mayu knew what he was doing. But he didn't prepare for water. This is a painting that my brother gave all of the siblings that was taken from a photograph, and I invite you to come look at it later. And it shows the water coming into the house. It was in the house for less than 36 hours. You could still smell it years later. We didn't get ready for the water, but we got ready for the wind. I'll be back. So the premise, if you look on the left side of this page, after Dr. Smith Dharmasaraho, the head meteorologist of Thailand, advocated in 1998 for creating a network of sirens to warn of coming tsunamis in the Indian Ocean, the ruling government replaced him. His superiors argued that a coastal warning system might deter tourists as they would see Thailand as unsafe. 6 years later, a massive Indian Ocean tsunami killed more than 200,000 people, including thousands in coastal Thailand, many of them tourists. So the issue of this remarkable book, The Optimist Telescope, Thinking Ahead in a Reckless Age, is pretty simple. We don't think ahead. We live today. We live today in every way. We eat what we want today. We invest in what we want to have the best returns this quarter. We do not pay attention to dangers. And this woman has written a book, and I should try to pronounce her name, Bina Venkataraman. I'm sorry, I'm sure I'm botching that. She has written a book that as you read chapter after chapter after chapter, you begin to realize, I need to do a better job taking a long view, a genuine long view. So this book is story after story of people that were not taking into account the long term, and it was a disaster. The micro-lending crisis in India. Basically, micro-lending has worked well, but now it's a business, and people started using it like payday lenders, and they got in deeper trouble, and it was seriously bad. Bottom of page 11. First, 5 key lessons for our reckless age from the author. Number 1, looked beyond near-term targets. And number 5, demand and design better institutions. And let me say again, think of that streetlight sign in Massachusetts that says, and they're all over the city, this is how high the water came. Let it be, write this down somewhere, visualized. That really is important. And then I've got a couple of additional lessons and takeaways. Number one, how will we get leaders and leadership teams to think about such issues, such dangers of focusing on the short term? One way is to spread the news about this book. You cannot read this book and not think about, I gotta have a long-term view. Number two, and this book draws from a very wide array of sources, many cultures and ages, personal life, business life. Such breadth is really useful. We need to read outside our usual reading diet more often. The Optimist Telescope, Thinking Ahead in a Reckless Age. Hope you found this useful. Thank you.